Hello and welcome to our very first video for the Adelaide Magnolia letters. This is a really great product from the Flower Letters, and it's a snail mail service where every 2 weeks you're going to get a new letter that has a little bit of romance and a little bit of mystery to it, and also includes some beautiful embellishments and paper. I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it yet, but just to let you know kind of what's inside. When you get your letter, you have a little welcome note from the company. You have the actual letter, which has beautiful script on it and a really pretty kind of parchment style background. And then you always have some kind of goodies inside. It could be a postcard, it could be a photograph, just some really fun things. And so not too long ago on the Flower Letters Facebook group, we had been talking about doing some mixed media art journaling with our letters. Now some people like to put the letter inside the journal and use it as kind of a giant scrapbook. My problem is the Flower Letters also offers a beautiful matching tin that you can put your letters in, and I just love them, and the letters fit in so perfectly. So I'm going to be keeping my letters in the tin because I just love the idea of it, and it looks really pretty on my little shelf with all my other things. But my mind was changed a little bit when the creators of the Flower Letters came out with printable downloads. They're a digital download that you can buy, very, very economical, and you get, I think it's 12 sheets of patterned paper that you can print out on your own printer, and then you get a whole bunch of little embellishments and ephemera that you can cut out and use for scrapbooking, journaling, making cards, just adding fun little things to anything. You could send your own letters and dress them up a little bit with all of these goodies. I've already cut mine out so that I can kind of pick through them as I want. And then I've also selected my journal, which for this, because ultimately I'm not going to put the actual letters in the journal, that takes up quite a bit of space anyway. I just want to make it kind of a themed book, a curiosity book, as the Victorians used to call it. So I got these very simple brown craft paper books off of Amazon. They have 60 pages, it's actually 30 sheets, so you have 60 surfaces. And since the Flower Letters subscription gives you 24 letters over the course of a year, I figure that will allow me to do 24, or rather a 2-page spread for each letter that arrives. So I'm really looking forward to it. The first thing I did, of course, was print out these gorgeous papers. And they really set the tone, the color palette. Now the first one I'm doing is Adelaide Magnolia. She's a Regency woman, so think Jane Austen or Pride and Prejudice, Emma, all that good stuff. And the papers perfectly reflect that. Then I was able to go into my own stash and pick out things that might go along with it, along my journaling journey. So I have some Distress Oxide Spray and Distress Ink in kind of this powder blue color. It's called Speckled Egg, and Weathered Wood. They're Jim Holtz designs, and so I had some of that. I had some of this really pretty kind of chiffon, yeah, I guess it's a ribbon. It's like a frayed ribbon that I plan to use. I've got some 3D flowers, little paper flowers. I pick those up at Hobby Lobby whenever they're on sale. I was really excited. These are another Jim Holtz designs. These are corner edgers, which I'm going to put on the cover of the book. And I decided that I didn't want it to just be plain. I really want it to stand out and say which book this is going to be. And so I went to my computer and made a little label for it. Just got on Canva, got a frame, chose a font, and cut out the design. It's on cardstock. And so that's going to be my cover title that will help me label this journal, because right now it's not good enough to just have one subscription. I have 4, and so I have 4 different books that I'm going to be doing. Hopefully 1 a week is my goal. This week I'm working on the covers of the journals. I really loved the blue paper and the fact that it has magnolias on it. Here was my first challenge though. When I went to go with this journal, the paper was not quite big enough to go to the edge here. If I turn it this way, it's not quite big enough to wrap around the outside edge. I can go back to the printer and probably make a larger format or print out a couple of pages and splice it together, but I thought it would be neat to combine 2 of the pages. So I'm taking the Magnolia paper and I'm going to put it here. And I'm working on kind of a small table, so I don't have my bigger paper cutter out at the moment. But this is just a small piece here. I'm going to cut it to fit. And I know lots of people like to use double-sided tape or glue dots or something of that kind. I really love this stick flat glue. I use it in making dollhouses and miniatures when I wallpaper dollhouses, and I love it because it never curls the paper. It's called Grandmother Stover's Stick Flat Glue. And I just use a knife to kind of smear it on the paper. You don't have to have full coverage, but I tend to go just off the edge a little bit here. It's like putting butter on toast. And since it sticks really, really well to balsa wood in my other projects, I know it's going to do great on this brown craft paper that the journal cover is made out of. I'm just going to match up my edges and then smooth it out just like that. Now let's see, I have a little tool. I normally have a tool that I can just kind of go along and smooth everything out. I'll have to dig that out later, but the handle of the knife works just as good. Okay, so I've got that. I could snip the curves a little bit here because my journal is curved. It's not going to matter because I'm going to cover it up with those corners that I love. But here's the first layer. Now I'm going to add my second piece of paper. I still need to trim this a little bit. Trim that off. And if you are trimming your paper to fit the size of your journal, remember to keep all of the extra little pieces. So even though this is a piece that's come off of it, I could use this later, trim it into a different size, cut it with decorative scissors, and it could be another accent element in my journal. Okay, so now, make sure it's gonna wrap. Okay. start the same process here. And this glue, honestly, you can spread it so thin. It does not take much. I've used a lot of the glue tape dispensers. I've used the double stick tape. I really like the double-sided tape. However, I've changed my mind just before I started this project because I cleaned out my garage yesterday. Hooray for me, because that was a big job I was dreading, and I got it done. And when I was going through some of the containers, I had some paper crafting projects that I had put in storage. And when I opened them up, the ones that I had used the double-sided tape on, or the tape gun, or several of the, I've tried everything. Those had all dried off, or dried up and become brittle. And so they didn't stick anymore. And some of my mixed media art, scrapbooking books that I had made were just in crumbly pieces, and I was so sad about it. I can go back in and stick them down, but the point is it should have stayed, honestly. And I have had my miniatures and dollhouse items be in storage for a couple of years, even without being climate controlled. And if I use the stick flat glue, it didn't affect them at all. Okay, so now, just by using the papers that come in the digital download, I've got a cover on my journal. The next thing that I want to try to do is distress the edges. I just work with the ink pad as it is. You can get a little pouncer, you could take a Q-tip and get some ink and go along the edges. But because I am just doing the edges, I just use the ink pad and kind of brush it off the sides of it. And you can use the corner of it to sort of come in just a little bit off of that edge, and you get this really neat feathered effect. It's probably my all-time favorite thing to do when I do any kind of paper crafting, because it's so forgiving. And if you have a wobbly hand and you don't cut things quite evenly or sharply, or if you've got, like I do, where you've got two surfaces that are meeting between the journal and the paper, so there might be kind of just a little hint of a difference in layers there. When you distress the edges, it covers up those tiny imperfections. And besides that, it's going to give the paper a little bit of a darker edge, framing the design of the paper and giving it a little bit of an aged appearance. So you can see a little bit of that, how it helps the edges. Now, I don't like this where the paper is meeting, and that's where we're going to cover it up. Even though it is a nice straight line, it just looks unfinished and a little bit not right. So I've got my chiffon, beautiful. So I could lay it like that just to have another textured element. I could also bunch it up a little bit, which I think is what I'm ultimately going to do here. I'm just going to cut off a piece of it. And again, it's a great idea. I got that at Hobby Lobby, by the way. They have several different color palettes. It's great because it's naturally frayed on the edges. And if you take the edge that you cut and just pull at the threads, you can fray the edge to match the rest of it. again, I'm just going to use the stick flat because it's good for everything. And I'm going to go right along the seam, but this time instead of making it quite such a thin application, I'm going to let it stick up a little bit so it can kind of pick up that fabric. And then I can just sort of mush it along in a kind of pretend gathering or ruching effect. If you like to combine sewing with your mixed media, you could totally take this to the sewing machine, run a gathering thread through it, and then it would be the exact size of your journal. Okay, so now this is the fun part. I love getting the 3D element going because now you've got something interesting sticking up. It invites you to kind of touch and feel and experience the whole thing. All right, now I know I'm going to want my label. I'm remembering that I also have my flowers, so I want to leave room for that as well. This is where I'm going to add some of these 3D foam squares or pop-up dots. They're double-sided, double sticky, and you just peel them off of the paper, stick them to the back of your project, and then peel the opposite paper off of it. You don't have to go too crazy with going all the way around the edge. Like, you could have, I don't know, probably half a dozen, and it's going to be really secure. The one thing that I do recommend is that you put some dots in the center of it to give it more stability, because as things get put on top of this journal, or even people pressing their hands on it, it could be in danger of possibly creasing or warping in the middle. So I got all my dots there, and I'm just going to go right into the center of the journal. And it's sticking really well. Okay, let's take a look at some flowers. So this is fun to just kind of play with the placement of it. As a general rule in art, we like things that have symmetry. If something's happening on one side, we like something to happen on the other side. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. But it is nice to kind of audition different ways. You could put them all up together. Got the magnolia down here. That's kind of cute. I do like the way that this highlights the name a lot more than if I focus on having the flower up at the top. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Okay. Again with a little bit of glue. That's what's so nice about these beautiful handmade paper flowers, is they take the glue really well. And it's even been in my kit for a long time. It kind of got smushed down, but it still looks good. And I love being able to just use up a few of my past project items. I haven't purchased anything for this project, for this journal at all, other than the digital downloads. And they're available at theflowerletters.com. And you can buy just the set for one letter series for Adelaide Magnolia, or you can buy a mega pack which has all of them. You know which one I got. All right, so here we have our corners, and they slide over the edge of your paper. Some of them have kind of like a double-sided tape underneath them. These actually have the brass backing that you fold down. Kind of want to see this. A lot of this is like trying on clothes. You're just going to audition it and see how it looks. Ooh, I love the way that finishes off the corner. So cute. So I'm going to put a touch of glue here for that. Another one down here. And I'm sure you could put these on with like double-sided tape as well. I'm just being paranoid now that I've had that problem with my previous projects, and it not, because I live in Florida, so you know it does get very hot here. So a lot of times we have to take extra measures for where we live to make sure our pretties stay pretty. Okay. We'll work on the back side. We are almost finished with this. I'm really hoping that you share what you're doing with the cover of your journal. Maybe you found one that's already pretty and you don't need to do anything to it. I'd really like to see other people's ideas. That's what makes this whole process so much fun. It's always changing. And we get to put our own personal stamp on things. Because these corner decorative pieces, they actually do smash down. I can take a little mallet or something and hammer it down. When the glue is dry, that is what I will do, just for extra security. But I like to have a touch of glue under there, just so if it decides to get crazy later, it's got maybe a little extra security. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, we have our Adelaide Magnolia cover is complete. I have a little bit of a raised effect here with the title. Some fun three-dimensional texture happening with the flowers and the ribbon. And then our elegant little corner edgers, which just gives it a little extra zhuzh. And we got distressed edges. Everything's sticking and laying very flat, which is great. I'm really pleased with it. I think it's going to be good. So next time, we'll start with the letter number 1 in the series and see what comes up for an idea for a page spread. All right. So I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to put in the comments what you are doing, how you are changing this up and making it your own. See you soon.